so we're working on summer sausage and snack sticks here. What we've got here is starting with our two-piece clods. There's a variety of different cuts that you can use. Chuck, two-piece clods, goosenecks. We used a lot of those making snack sticks back in the day. Same thing for summer sausage. These will probably be a little bit leaner than I would like. I'd like a little bit more fat in there, probably about 75% lean, just to get a good mouthfeel, not too fat. You can also cheapen up your meat batch by using 50-50 trim if you've got a leaner cuts that you want. Depending on what kind of volume that you're working with, you can get 50-50 trim and mix that in with higher quality cuts like the two-piece clods if they're running leaner. But you can make summer sausage out of a lot of different cuts and use your purchase power to make the best quality product that you can. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm just going to be chunking it up here and using it for getting our weights here. We're going to do a 25-pound batch of summer sausage, which we can also use that same spice blend for snack sticks and just make some minor changes in it later on like we're going to show you. Be sure you just have it small enough so you get to go through the grinder without having too many problems. Now I'm not taking out any tendons or anything on this because it's fairly clean. We're going to be grinding it. You could take some of this off for like a show class and so forth, but regular production, there's no need to really take it off. It's just more waste. So we want to utilize everything that we possibly can to make the product. So we'll batch up the rest of this for the second batch. And then what we'll do is after I get done doing this, we'll go to the grinder, go through a coarse grind at that point, and then we're going to do our mixing and then move into our final grind and stuffing. So all we're doing is breaking down the particle size here so we can mix easy. I'm doing a fairly coarse grind here, so I've got good particle definition. Summer sausage and snack sticks, you don't want emulsified or cut super fine. It really changes the mouthfeel and the texture of the product, and actually the flavor also. You can have a summer sausage seasoning and still have it taste like a hot dog if it's too finely ground. So other thing when you're putting together your grinder, be sure your collar is tight. Otherwise you're just gonna be mashing the product through. You gotta have your knives clean and sharp along with your plate. The great thing about doing a summer sausage or a snack stick is that you're able to change products just by adding a different type of cheese or more garlic to the product. So we're going to do that with some of the summer sausage batches here, and we'll probably do one snack stick here also. So on these snack sticks and summer sausage that we're making here today, we're going to be fermenting these with a lactic acid starter culture. This is Bactoferm LHP. I believe it has a couple different cultures in it, so you get a wider range of pH drop. Now, on the starter cultures, I'm going to be mixing it up here because this is a freeze-dried powdered form. We're going to mix it with roughly a gallon of water. This is way more than what I need for the small batches that we're doing today, but we're going to go ahead and use this up and give a good boost to the meat batch that we're going to be making here. The one thing is when you're mixing this up and rehydrating it, you're going to be using a distilled water or a bottled water. Don't use city water because the chlorine will kill the culture and you won't have any effect on it. You're just throwing in dead bugs at that point. So we want to keep those microbes living and good. The other thing that we'll have to add to the seasoning blends here is dextrose. Sugar won't cut it. They'll survive on it, but they're not going to grow efficiently. Their best form of food is dextrose. So we're going to be putting dextrose, roughly a pound of dextrose per 100 pounds is a rule of thumb. That way they've got a good base to start off on, and you get that growth going on when they hit their optimum temperature of where they start multiplying and producing that lactic acid. So they only start producing that lactic acid once they get to the end of their life cycle. So fermentation takes a longer period of time than using encapsulated acids or acidifying the product a different way. And we can talk a little bit about those here and there, but the citric acid is an acid that's encapsulated in a fat that breaks open at a certain temperature, right around 130 degrees. So you can drop your pH very rapidly, but you want to drop, you don't want that acid being released until that meat matrix that we're creating by making this sausage is actually solidified and actually starts bonding back together. Because if it breaks open beforehand, you're going to get a crumbly product that doesn't hold together very well, and it gives you really off mouthfeel and so forth. Citric acid is used a lot in Mexican chorizos, and that's kind of the texture that you would get if the citric acid is released beforehand. So the meat block in the smokehouse will start forming and binding together and locking together at about 110 to 115 degrees. And that's about the same time where these are at their optimum level. So the sausage is getting bound together before the acid is being released, and the survivability of the culture is still going on. So it does take longer to ferment a product than use an encapsulated product. So doing that, we're going to go ahead and do batches of 2 different ways here today. I've got our coarse grind here that we're going to go in and mix, and we'll grind this one more time through a 3/16 plate after we mix the seasoning in. So we're just going to be putting our meat batch in here, and then we're going to run it through the grinder after this. So we're using a PS seasoning, summer sausage seasoning here for the original, and then we'll be adding cheeses to that product later and doing a couple different casings here also. So this is for a 25-pound batch, all pre-blended. We're going to add that in. Now, if you're using a starter culture, I recommend putting the starter culture in at the end of the mixing process and then letting it get all the way through. But again, we need to have dextrose in here also for that fermentation to happen. So we want that seasoning completely mixed thoroughly through the process. And we'll add some water here also to get that mixed in. And we just added the speed cure to go in there. And then we'll add some water here also to facilitate that mixing process and get complete distribution of the salts and seasoning in there also. The last thing I'm going to put in right now is the starter culture. We've got dextrose in there, water in there. We've got a pretty good, we're getting a little bit of protein extraction here. And we got to remember that we're still going to go through a final grind on this batch because it's coarse ground, and we don't want to overmix it here at this point. Right now, I'm going to put the starter cultures in. Now again, the water is very important on this. We use bottled water to mix this up. Ideally, you'd want to use distilled water or well-filtered water. We actually used to use a charcoal filter for our system. You can use reverse osmosis for the sausage kitchen also. I'm going to overdose it here a little bit just to be sure we've got enough going into the product, and then mix that in. And now you see that water get pulled in with the meat matrix here that we've got going on. We know we've got good protein extraction, and basically all we're using that water for beforehand and with is to incorporate those ingredients. So I'm going to take this out, and we're going to go and do a final grind on it, and then we'll get to stuffing the product here. So we're gonna finish basically mixing here also with this, doing a final grind like this. And you can see the particle definition here as it's coming out. You can adjust your particle definition however you like, whether you want it more emulsified, more a finer grind, or a coarser grind, depending on you and your customers, your location. Here in Wisconsin, we like a little bit coarser grind on a lot of our products, even brats, than a lot of the rest of the United States. And it really changes the mouthfeel on how you do that final grind and mixing. So you don't want to over extract protein too much. This might be a little on that edge, or we could be running the product through a little bit colder would be more ideal. What we're gonna do is we're gonna mix half with a pepper jack cheese and half with a cheddar, high temp cheddar, by hand. And then we'll end up stuffing that out into summer sausage casings. So here we've got our high temp pepper jack cheese. And you can add as much or as little as you want. It's recommended here for 2 to 3 pounds for a 25-pound batch. So I basically just put a pound in for a 13-pound batch, 12-pound batch. And we're just gonna mix that in. One thing you don't wanna do is let, when you're making a product like this, let that sit overnight in the cooler before smoking. You wanna try and get that in the process sooner, because sometimes that cheese will actually get absorbed right in this raw meat matrix, and you won't have a single curd or cube in there. You might have the flavor, but you won't see the product. So the main visual is a main selling point for a product like this. So you want to be sure that's processed and not held over a day or two without being smoked or cooked. So that's basically all that we got to do to incorporate that, and then it'll get more incorporated into the product as soon as we start stuffing. Now, the nice thing about doing a batch like this, you can have a main batter that we both started with for both these products, and you can make multitudes of products out of a 100-pound batch, and then be able to market and sell on different aspects out of that. You can throw jalapenos in here, pineapple, cranberries, dried blueberries. There's a lot of things that you can incorporate into a summer sausage to get an added sale. And that's really what it's all about in retail, is getting that added sale as you're coming through the door. So what we've got here are some summer sausage fibrous casings. And we're gonna stuff these out, and then I'll tie them after we get done here. But basically you wanna keep pressure on this, on your right hand here, and keeping that firm. And go ahead and bring it around.
Yep.
And all you're doing here is doing a half hitch.
Half hitch.
And another half hitch.
That's the way the old timers used to do it.
If you got to use string. Now there's a wide range of equipment, you know, with automatic clippers and so forth. You can buy hand clippers for clipping these, but butcher twine works fine to start out with. And then as soon as you're ready to up your production, or you've got more demand for a product, buy what you need and go on from there. But you want to always be looking at what's going to make your life easier and what's going to save you time. If it saves you time, it saves you money. But on this product, you can see the particle definition, you can see the cheese coming through. So I think it's going to be a nice product that you're going to have a nice mouthfeel, a traditional type summer sausage. This is a coated casing. If you can see that, there's a pepper coating in there. So by doing this, you can create another product, do some added value. So we're gonna make a product here with a pepper coating on the outside of the product. So when it slices, it's gonna be coated with a pepper.
Another little tip with these spice adhered casings, these spice line casings, I have used them for years, especially around the holidays, Matthew. You know, with gift boxes and everything else. These are very, very, very forgiving casings. I know guys that cook them on their side. I know guys that hang them. You can't kill them. I mean, they're very, very easy to use. However, when they're done out of the smokehouse, do not attempt to peel them until they've been chilled, okay? Don't do that at all. And another tip, and we'll show you tomorrow when this product's done, we do some packaging. We've got some shrink bags, and I'm gonna show you what I recommend that you package this with. Guys, around the holidays, you can cut that in 3 pieces. I know some guys sell it by the pound. I would sell it by the stick. $10 a piece, and have no issues getting it, you know, in gift boxes and what have you. So if you've never tried them, I suggest you give them a whirl. It's just that much more money we can add in and to maximize profits on this product.
So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna hang these. Now ideally, when you're filling a smokehouse, you want all the same type of product on there and have that house full for that house is designed to operate on a full load. Yeah, you can get by with partial loads, but if you can fill a load, and it can be multiple different products, type of products, but all summer sausage, say you got 5 different flavors, you can put those all on one smokehouse. And you can put a lot more on a stick. These are 2 different types. So ideally, as long as those products aren't touching each other, as close as you can get them on there, the more pounds you get in the house, the more product you put out. A full truck might take a little bit longer to cook, but if you've got 30 more pounds on there, you're already money ahead running that house. So the main thing is being sure your products aren't touching each other.
I think we're lining up good. That's right, your touch marks. And of course, we all know this, guys. This is kind of elementary, common sense here. But I have seen where it's not done, and it makes a big difference.
It might take you a little bit more time in the beginning, especially when we get into snack sticks. We'll show that again. It'll take you more time to hang them and get them spaced out right. But your end product is going to be that much better, and you're not dealing with issues after the fact. By rushing and throwing it on there, you really end up don't saving anything. You end up causing yourself more problems and lost time and money. So what we've got, our products finished up here, and we've got good color on these summer sausages that we did. We've got good color on the snack sticks. We're showering the product right now to cool it down. It's free cooling. It's a rapid cooling. It'll set the product, the color on the product and get that color down. But the product has got to be dried after smoking to lock that color in. So when we're smoking a product, we've got a lot of humidity in the house and so forth. So before we hit it with smoke, we actually drop the humidity in that house to dry that product down and get the outside of that product tacky to the touch. Where the wet bulb and dry bulb meet, that's where you're going to have your best ability to put on smoke and keep smoke on it, and lock that color in. Once you got the smoke on there, you need to have a cycle in there to dry that product to lock it in. And once it's locked in, you're not going to get that color to wash off when you're showering like this. Now, if you don't have that color set after you smoke, you will get streaking on your product. So we're going to show the differences between the natural casings here and the beef bung end caps. Again, salamis typically aren't smoked. They're typically just dry cured, and they get their rich color from that drying process. But we smoke these just for an experiment to see how things go. So you can see the difference between some of the colors here. And it looks a little light right now, but once it dries off and blooms, that's what Dan's talking about, is blooming, that you're gonna have a nice rich color on there. When you see color locked in your end tails like this, you know you're gonna still have that color on here as long as it's not washed out. And it's gonna look even better after it's dried off and blooms here for about a half an hour or so.
Did you use apple pellets, correct?
We did use apple pellets on this product.
So for a color, for apple wood, for a color like that, that's pretty impressive right there.
Okay, so here's the program that we used on the snack sticks and all the product that's on the smokehouse. Now, we lucked out on our large diameter slicing salami. That hit 128 degrees for a lethality over an hour. So it was at least 28 degrees and it went up to 130 some degrees, but that was for an hour period. So that hit lethality, which satisfies USDA on a large diameter fermented product like that. You got to use the right, I believe that's a Tompkins study, so you can definitely use that for your summer sausages. If you have a full load of one product in there, you can typically use that. You typically see that done on a summer sausage or a fermented product like that at 128 degrees for that. But going back to the program here, we've got the start delay in there. These times are in seconds. So we had it set at 120 degrees. We want to be sure our high temps didn't get above for 115 for our fermentation. So you can see we've got large time amounts here set at a low temp, so that internal temperature didn't increase past the culture's ability to grow and survive. So we want that product to grow and survive. We've got really good tang on the product, so we're going to be hitting in the probably 4.5s, 4.2s on that fermented product, especially the larger diameter one. The fermentation went longer on that than the snack sticks. We go into a cooking at 105, keeping that temperature low, and then we go into a drying here. You'll see this ramp up. We got it set at 100, the house temp set at 140, and that was to dry down that product so we could apply smoke to it. So while you're fermenting, there's a lot of humidity in that house. If we would have opened it at that point, the product would feel wet, like when we put it in. So it would just be warmer. So we want to get to the point where we need to dry that product out so we can apply the smoke, and that's what this cycle is doing right here, this drying cycle. It's not a real long cycle. I think we had it for 15 minutes. We had the fan speed turned up a little bit, and then the house temp was set at 140. Internal temp was set at like 130. We never came close to that during that period because it was only 15 minutes, but it was just enough to set that outside to get it tacky, where the smoke molecules would actually adhere to the outside of that product. Now you'll have a little bit of variation on the products that we can look at after we bloom on how much smoke got applied. The beef bung end caps didn't have a great color. It's a different type of, we would have needed to dry that out a little bit more probably to get that to get the same type of color that we have on the other products. But that being said, then we applied smoke for I believe it was 2 hours. And again, right around that same temp, and we've got the internal temp set up so it was probably still wasn't at that. And we could look at our food safety records after that to see where our actual internal temps ended up at. And then after that, like I was talking, when we pulled the product out, we have another drying cycle, and that's to set that color on the product so it doesn't get washed off while we're showering and so forth. So if you don't have that dry step in after smoking, you're gonna get streaking on the product, you're gonna get discoloration on the outside, and it's gonna look terrible. So you wanna get that dry and locked in with a dry, high temp, and then low humidity. So we dropped our humidities down to 50 when all the other ones, when we're fermenting, were 85. And we had it 0 at the drying beforehand to get that dried out enough so we could apply that smoke. And then we're locking it in with that low humidity after that. And then we finished off cooking the product with these other cooking steps and then shower at the end.
As you can see, the product has good color. On the face cut, you can see the cheese has maintained its definition through the mixing process. There are small air pockets from the piston stuffer, and while this impacts the product if you wanted to take it to a show, it has no impact on its saleability. When split, you can again see our cheese particle maintain definition through the cycle and see our spices throughout the product. We use a black pepper spice transfer casing on this product. Spice transfer casings are very forgiving, so you can shower the product without damaging it. We recommend fully chilling before opening to maintain freshness and selling by the piece, not the pound. With clear cheese definition, this is an attractive product that's going to impress your customers. All 3 of these products were smoked together, achieving good color and definition and well-balanced pH and AW. For more information, visit our websites.